Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for joining me today on episode number 5 of the How to Life podcast. I'm Dr. Laura Jaggett, and I have a very inspirational interview today with 24-year-old self-made audio engineer Yoni Myllari, who is the founder, engineer, and producer at Green Tea Studios in Los Angeles, California. Many people have no idea what they want to do after high school. And in order to figure it out, many go to college, many start working, and there are many who find passion in something, follow their calling early on, and find personal success at a very young age. Yoni's one of those people, and he has a great story about his journey so far. So if you want to know how to trust yourself, follow your own path, or if you want to know one way to become a sound engineer, sit back and enjoy this very inspiring story. Hi, Yoni. Welcome.
Hi, Laura. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy you agreed to join me here. Why don't you tell me your name, what you do, and how old you are?
So my name is Yoni Myllari. I am currently 24, and I'm an audio engineer in a studio here in LA that I run every single day. Specifically work in music as opposed to film or something like that.
How long have you been doing this now?
I guess the journey really started when I was 18. That's when I started considering a career path in music, but I've been audio engineering for about 4 years now. I started when I was 20.
Was music always a big part of your life growing up?
Music absolutely was a big part of my life growing up. Definitely very fond of music. I always grew up with, music around the house, and my dad had a very specific appreciation for classical rock. My mom grew up singing in the churches. Yeah, I guess it was kind of musicality within the family, but nothing too crazy, which is why I never really considered music to be, sort of a career path to later in life. Growing up when we used to visit my mom's family, my uncle had a grand piano, and he is actually a really good piano player. And I always remember, just sitting there for hours listening to him play and just always being just fascinated by audio in general and just sound.
So when did you start learning about audio and how music is produced?
Along the same timeline that I was, graduating high school. What was happening is I became more and more intrigued by the production process of things. And I think just living in LA in general had a lot to do with that. I guess the way I started going into audio was something clicked in me that went from me loving music to me feeling the need to explore how music was made. I think the production process, there was something about, what is it that a person, just generic pop star, for example, and when you see them sing live or something like that, and you're just like, how is that the same person on the record? You know what I mean? Like what goes on in a studio that is just so magical that, takes something that sounds completely normal and then blows this thing up to sound just above and beyond life. It started as a curiosity. It wasn't even at this point something that I was like, oh, that's what I want to do in my life. It really was it was the most curious I ever felt in my life, because I think I used to watch like YouTube videos of artists in the studio. I just knew that I wanted to experience something like that. So I went to Guitar Center that day, that I was basically fed up. I'm like, you know what? I need to learn how to make music. I need to learn how it's produced. And at this point, I have zero experience, zero knowledge. I just love music. I played guitar for a couple of years, but again, no technical knowledge of engineering. I didn't even know what engineering was. I knew nothing, but I knew that I needed to find out what that was. And that was the most excited I ever felt in life. That was like the first time in my life that I've ever felt that I wanted to do something like wholeheartedly. It was like a fire just lit up, in my soul. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. This is something that's huge. I knew the second I started delving into it that it was a whole world waiting to be explored. And that is such an exciting feeling.
When you made that realization, you moved into action right away.
Right away.
And why is that? Why did you move into action right away on that?
Because it was like an itch that needed to be scratched. It was a need. It had become a bit of an obsession in a good way. I didn't want to wait.
So you went to Guitar Center that day as soon as you made the realization, as soon as you felt that passion fire up in you. What'd you buy?
I grabbed the first person that worked there and I asked him, listen, I don't know anything about anything, but how can I make music in my room? And he said, well, you have a computer? I said, yeah, I have a computer. And then he said, well, do you have an audio interface? I said, I have no idea what that is. And then he's like, well, do you have a DAW? And I'm like, well, again, gibberish, but point me in the right direction. I will pick
Tell
one
me
up.
what I need.
I was like, literally tell me what I need when I walk out of the store and go home, and what do I need to look up? Like, what do I need to eat? And he was like, oh boy. And I feel him at this point, like having the knowledge that I do. Like that is just such a very general question. Is like, what do I need to make music? Like that is just, such a such a basic question.
And so you were
And
just you were doing this all in your room on your own.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
All I needed was my laptop. I had a very basic sound card at the time, and a pair of headphones. That was really it. A small what's called a MIDI keyboard. It looks like a small piano, but it's not an actual instrument. It's just a controller for the computer. So it just sort of reads the notes that you're playing, which then allows you to play all these virtual instruments, anything from strings to pianos to drums to synthesizers. So I knew that if I got a few basic pieces of equipment, that I trust myself that I would be able to learn.
And because you were motivated to do so as well.
Correct. I'm just in general a person who believes that if you just set your mind to it and you want something bad enough, you definitely can do it. There's no reason that someone can do it and you cannot.
I love that you know that.
The only thing that separates two people is who wants to do it more. It's not like he's more capable than you because of whatever. I just don't believe that. I think it comes down to who wants it more. And I knew that I wanted it, and I wasn't going to take no for an answer. And the beginning was really rough. Because I had felt that I was just I didn't even know where to start because it was just so big. And it was frustrating because I felt that every YouTube video that I would watch, I would just be picking up very tiny pieces of information that seemed very far away from each other, and I wasn't able to sort of connect dots in the beginning. And that could be really frustrating when you're trying to tackle on something, completely new, and then know that the people that you are listening to as artists are doing it at the peak level. And feeling that distance could be very well,
it can be discouraging.
Very discouraging. That's the word I was looking for. Correct. And I've seen a lot of people
give up.
Yeah.
So what did you do to not get discouraged? How did you overcome that?
I got lucky that I never got as discouraged as I was motivated.
What did you do? I'm sure there's times where you were working, you're frustrated, you can't get it. Did you just say, I'm just going to bed for tonight and I'll deal with it tomorrow? Or what did you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were times where I think I was focusing a little too much on getting to the finish line, that I wasn't appreciating the journey enough. And that's something that I tell my friends who are going through some of the same frustrations that I had. I said, you don't even realize it, but you're in the most beautiful part of it. Some of my best musical ideas came when I had no idea of structure or music at all. When you don't know where the boundaries are, you sort of create them. But again, that's not something that any beginner wants to hear. So they never listen to me.
I think it is. It's an important part. I think that it's important to know that it's okay to stumble a little bit and not beat up on yourself. Sometimes you just have to stop and just say, okay, I'm just going to take a break, or just, go to sleep for the night. And then you wake up refreshed and tackle it again. And then it comes easier to you. Yeah.
And those moments that you're describing were just incredibly helpful in me continuing in my processes. Every time that I saw that I was doing something a little faster, or every time that I watched like a YouTube video and I was like, I know exactly what he's talking about, actually, for once, you know what I mean? Like those little moments in the beginning where it just helped me realize that
you are making progress.
Yeah, you're making progress, and it does come. It does come. You just have to put the time. And, it's funny because in the beginning you feel like you're going so slowly, but as you keep pushing and you push through, those breakthroughs become exponential. You just start bulldozing through
the
levels.
Momentum picks up, and you get more confidence in yourself.
It's a snowball effect, and before you know it, you're looking back and you're like, "Whoa, I've come a long way." And then, there were a few times where I've actually stepped away from it for a week, 2 weeks, sometimes. Every time I came back, I sort of felt refreshed. I felt new, and it helped me sort of continue on in the journey because I let it sit for a while.
But at this point, it was just still a passion project. It was just for fun. It wasn't something that you considered as a potential job. So what did you think about doing? Let's say you're like in your high school when high schoolers start thinking, what am I going to do with my life? What did you think you were going to do? Or was it sort of chosen for you? Did your parents have a say in what you were going to do?
I was a pretty good student growing up, so my parents had high hopes that I would, have a career path that was very heavily involved in schooling, such as, a doctor or a lawyer. My parents always kept me on a certain path of what careers look like, and then there are other things in life that you can love, like music or fishing or whatever, biking. You could love all sorts of things, but it never really was a career. Like, I obviously knew songs were being made. There were a lot of famous bands and stuff, but I didn't really think about all the jobs that people have behind the scenes.
Not until you got to
Yeah,
be
no,
18 or so.
I got to be, exactly. That was when I sort of started to understand that there is actually a career in music, not necessarily just becoming a pop star or the singer himself, but there's many different steps in the audio or the production aspects of things that you could find your place if you really love it.
So at the end of high school, were you on board with following the traditional high school to college path? I mean, what did you do? Did you go with everyone else?
I'm a bit of a stubborn person sometimes. I don't really like being told what to do. In order for me to, not from like an egotistical standpoint, but I feel that I need to want to do it, because otherwise I just feel that it's a waste of time.
That's right.
Um,
That's actually very
yeah.
wise.
A lot of the kids, they usually take a gap year. Instead of a gap year, what I did is I actually went out and just got a bunch of different jobs. Like, I wanted to just experience,
What kind of
certain
jobs did
things.
you take?
My very first job was actually carpentering. My dad had a family friend that that they went to school together, and he owned like a furnishing carpentering company. He used to build furniture, and I asked him for a job. I said, I don't really care how much you pay me. I just want to work. I
You
was
just
kind
wanted the
of
experience.
yeah, exactly. It was, get up, be at work at 7, but I loved every minute of it. I think it made me a better person for it. And, so that was like one example. Then, after that, I wanted to take on a service job. So I worked, in restaurants around my neighborhood for a bit. And,
Good. Like waitering or thing.
yeah, waitering, busing, pretty much anything that they needed. I guess the goal there was just to, like I said, just to accumulate some life experience. There were a couple other jobs. I worked in finance for over a year. I actually worked in small business loans. I was an underwriter, so I got to evaluate people's files and make decisions in regards to how much money to distribute and things like that. And it was pretty good. I had a lot of people work under me, and it was probably one of the more lofty jobs that I've had, before. And it was good pay. It was great, but again, wasn't anything that I was genuinely interested in for a life career. This was more of me wanting to just learn. My brain's always it's always been a sponge. So all it really requires for me is to hear a story of how someone became successful, and it just opens like a bunch of ideas and windows and just creates this sort of, perspective for me. So that's why I knew that I needed to get out into the world, meaning I needed to get out of the classroom scenario and just sort of really experience and see the people that were actually out there doing it.
So
Rather,
after this
yeah.
gap year and these few experiences with jobs, what did you
Yeah.
decide to do then?
So at this time, my parents were definitely very keen on me getting some sort of college degree. So at that time, that was when I started going to Santa Monica Community College. It's very famous for kids going there and then 2 years later transferring to UCLA. Like, that's a very
Right.
popular move. So that was sort of the trajectory I was headed into.
What were you doing those 2 years in community college? You're making music in your room.
I was making music in my room, and I was studying to have a political science degree. I didn't
So
really want to
music
do any of
wasn't
that.
really an option at that point. You were just going to go political science, and you just had this little hobby that you really enjoyed that you just did on your own time.
Correct. Yeah, that's really all it was. It was just a hobby at that time, and it was a hobby until I sort of realized that I kind of had a knack for it.
How old were you when that happened?
20 years old, second year of community college. I started in my bedroom, and then as I sort of progressed in my journey, I realized that I needed to get what are called studio monitors, which are essentially just speakers. And that was not something that I could do in my apartment anymore. And that was when I told my dad, I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to rent out a small room within your office space, and I'm going to convert it into my own studio.
Now that you had this studio, did you seek out formal education or were you still self-taught at this point?
During this time, I'm in my father's office. I built a small studio. I'm still self-taught. I found just a bunch of content on the internet that was really high quality, and I don't know anything about anything, so this is more than good enough for now. You know what I'm saying? So when you're just starting something out, there's so much content out there today. You don't need to go to school, and that's still something I preach to people. I don't think you should go to school, for example, for like audio engineering until you do it for at least a few years and see if it's even something that you want to do. I think people think they want to do something until they actually do it and find out what it actually is. You know what I'm saying? Like, not everything is always as glamorous as it may sound. A lot of the time I spend editing, and editing is not something everyone has patience for example.
Yeah.
And that's something I would have never learned unless I started just doing it by myself and be, actually working in it.
What motivated you to build this studio? What was the goal? And what did your dad think about that?
It was the next level of my
It's the next
passion
logical
project.
step. And
Correct.
did he think it was still a passion at that point?
I think in the beginning he saw how quickly I was learning things and how quickly I was starting to produce things and
how serious you were
creating all
about
these
it.
things. Yeah, he actually was impressed, and so was my mom.
So how did you grow in this field once you built the studio?
During the time that I was building that studio in my father's office, I had met, who's now a close friend of mine. His name is Barry Rosenblum. He had moved from Chicago to LA, and he had moved into my neighborhood. And he actually he's actually an artist himself. And we were both from like an engineer perspective at the same level. So I was fortunate enough to meet him because he was the person that I practiced with. I recorded him, and then that gave me just so many hours of practice and running through recording situations and editing situations. And he was like my guinea pig in a way, and I was his guinea pig in a way as he, learned to develop vocal skills on a microphone, for example, things that are important from an artist perspective. And I was learning things that were extremely important from an audio engineering perspective, which was extremely invaluable, looking back at it, because it's something that really separates me from a lot of my competitors in my field.
Now, at that time, did you think it was something you could do as a job, or you just really enjoyed doing it?
Barry convinced me to start doing it for money, essentially. But he's like, you know what, if I have friends here and there that need recording done, you're a good enough engineer to run a session. And that really was the beginning of me realizing that I could be making money doing this, that this could be a career.
At what point did you decide this is it? This is what I'm doing?
I think it was when we went to a studio in Hollywood, and basically just seeing what he was doing just allowed me to realize, I could be doing this on a bigger scale. And again, I just felt that I was lucky enough to start fairly early. Like I said, 18 is pretty early when you think about it.
Are you still self-taught at this point? You're still just teaching yourself?
All self-taught. Basically from the ages of 18 until 20, 21, 22 was pretty much self-taught. Yeah.
So tell me about your first paid gig.
At the time, I don't think I had any room to be excited because I was just so nervous that I just didn't want anything to go wrong. I think I was thinking in like a very audio engineer way of like, I just hope that my computer doesn't crash or that the microphone doesn't spike levels or something.
So how did it go?
I hope he doesn't ask me anything that I don't know how to do. You know what I mean? Because at this point I had only gotten in a rhythm with Barry. I had never worked with anyone else. So it was very exciting. And you know what? He came in. He was a really cool guy. I mean, he is a really cool guy. We're still friends to this day. But he was really cool, which made the situation easier. He made me feel comfortable in my own environment, which is funny. But yeah, he was cool, and he was very patient. And at the end of the day, luckily enough, nothing that I had feared, going wrong went wrong. Everything went smoothly. And
did you start to feel more confident as once you got into the session? Did it get easier for you?
I did. I think it was more of like it was like a fight or flight type of response, and I was just going. And I guess I didn't realize, but I was just killing it. Apparently, you know what I mean. I was kind of like unconscious at the time, and I was just like going off and just doing all the right things and all these things that I had practiced for a couple of years. And it was like finally getting to it's like being on the bench for 2 years and you finally get to start your first game or something like that. I was like, bam, I get to apply all this practice into the real world, at least at a certain capacity. And that was really exciting. And the fact that it went well and that we ended up actually recording an entire project because of that night, because of how well it went. And that only inspired me to take it even more and more serious. Yeah, I think that was really what sparked the period of my life that I'm currently in with regards to my career.
Well, you had a winning combination. You had a lot of practice, so you had a lot of skill. You had a desire to do a really good job so that your client would be happy and you would be happy. When you put those two things together, you're going to get success.
Correct.
And what were your parents' reactions to you being not only paid, but really good at this? What did they say?
They said, if this is something that you want to do, like, we're fully supportive. If you think that you're going to be able to make money and this is the life that you want to live, just, get a degree.
Did you finish your degree in community college?
So I never ended up transferring to UCLA. At that time, I decided if I'm going to get a bachelor's degree, I'm going to get a bachelor's degree in audio engineering. And that's when I started taking classes at the Los Angeles Recording School.
Are you just getting your learning from your classes now? Is the self-education over?
I'm still, I guess, in a way, self-taught to this day, meaning I still watch a large amount of content. The reason I had such a burning passion to do it is because I had realized no one's just going to come knock on my door and say, hey, you know what, you're signed to Capitol Records. So I said, you know what, I have to teach myself how to do it because I want to be independent.
I love your drive to be your best. It's really inspiring. So tell me, what makes a good engineer? What makes you a good engineer?
A good engineer has a mental roadmap and knows exactly where he's going to end up, even as he's listening to the very, very rough version of the audio. He knows exactly the path that he's going to take it in. You got to have that vision at the end of the day. And I've always felt that I was able to have that, which is why people enjoy working with me, is because I'm actually able to see the steps that are going to be, coming ahead of us. And that, again, comes from just the experience of working in it. That's not something that you can ever get in a classroom. So I'm always self-taught and self-learning and just.
What are you learning in school?
So I guess what's beautiful about school is that it just opened my eyes in regards to just the different career paths that you could have within audio engineering itself, meaning it's not just music. Like, I'm taking classes such as, audio for virtual reality and film editing and, sound effects recording, overdubs. Every semester, if you will, I have 3 to 4 classes that are just show you the realm of audio engineering.
So there are lots of new tools. Every class you take, it's another tool you can put in your belt. Where are you right now in your journey?
Right now in my journey, I am, at the tail end of my bachelor's program at Los Angeles Film School.
So when will you be done with school?
Next summer.
And do you feel that this has been a really wise choice on your part to enroll in this school?
Yeah, ultimately I would say yes. The reason I hesitated a little bit, I think, is because I very quickly realized that it's very difficult to cover a lot of information when you have a classroom full of students that are at completely different levels. There were a lot of people that didn't have the sort of experience that I did. One of the reasons I decided to ultimately go to school is because as I was discovering and trying to discover new content to teach myself online, I felt that I was starting to get a lot of the same information. And I was at the point where I was like, you know what, I kind of want to go to a school where I have just experienced teachers when I can have conversations about these things. They can answer my questions.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. People that have been in my position that know exactly what I'm going through and are able to point me in the right direction.
You knew where you wanted to go, so you just found those teachers and mentors.
Correct.
Who had the answers without searching the entire web looking for what you wanted. You just narrowed it down. You just narrowed your focus.
Correct. I narrowed the focus and I just went full throttle. It was the first time that going to school made sense for me. So I was like, You know what? Yeah, I think this is a good choice.
I like that you really listen to yourself. When you have a question, you ask yourself. So, Yoni, what is your goal for the rest of this year?
I guess to mix and master certain amount of records would be nice.
So without worrying about the details of getting to where you are, if you just look out 5 years from now, where do you see yourself? Who are you? Where are you working?
I want to be an industry guy. My ultimate goal, one of my ultimate goals is to mix and master a Grammy winning album. That's definitely been a goal since the very beginning. That's kind of how I look at it. I have many smaller goals. I have many bigger goals. Ultimately, they all tie in together.
Well, I think with your drive and the steps that you've taken, you're pretty much on your way there.
I appreciate that. Yeah, all I could do is just enjoy it, work hard and enjoy it, and accept that whatever comes my way, it's going to be good.
So you feel pretty good about this decision you've made for yourself, for your life so far.
Oh yeah, I don't feel like I work. I feel like
you're playing,
living my life. Yeah, and there's nothing better. They say, well, I don't know what the exact quote is, but if you do something you love, then you don't work a day in your life,
That's
and
right.
I definitely feel that way every time that I come in. I get to work with people. I get to make people happy. Just seeing clients' faces when I take something that they created and bring it to life.
And when they
it's
hear
touching.
the finished product, what do they do?
Yeah, I've had people cry, and that's
the
highest
compliment.
That's to get too. I mean, come on, like that's crazy. Like you're touching someone's life, like that. They look at it like it's their baby, So when someone's really like putting everything into it, like this is all they care about, and you took it to a place that they did not even imagine it to be. I mean, that's like the highest form of compliment that I could receive as an audio engineer.
And your story is very inspiring, Yoni. I love that you are fearless. I love that you trust yourself. I love that you knew what was best for you and you followed that guidance, and that it's taken you to a place where you're really satisfied. Thank you, Yoni, so much for sharing your story with us. It was fun. I'm excited for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laura.
So what is the name of your studio?
Green Tea Studios.
Where could someone find you?
Instagram at Green Tea Studios LA, and we have a website, greenteastudios.com. We actually just launched and made live. We're actually still editing a lot of the text and stuff. It's brand new. You'd be surprised. A lot of it is word of mouth, but we're making some moves on social media and stuff. So
I'm going to list all of those links in the show notes. And Yoni, thank you very much for your time. Best of luck to you. I'm excited to hear what you come up with.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to share my story.
Well, I thought that was fun and inspiring. I hope you enjoyed this interview. Maybe something resonated about it. Maybe a little flame has started within you. Maybe you'll start out or you'll continue on a path that feels right to you. Thank you so much for sharing this time with me. I have another great interview next week all about credit, identity theft, credit repair, and how to not get in trouble in the first place, and so much more. Elisa Flowers is the guru behind Credit Medic 911, and she'll join me to help educate you about financial literacy. Her job is to help her clients repair their credit and make sure they become financially transformed and remain that way. So many of your questions about this topic will be answered. So many fears are going to be put to rest. You do not want to miss it. So if you would, please subscribe to this podcast to make sure you get the episode right to your feed. And if you're enjoying the How to Life podcast, please leave a nice review on Apple. I would really appreciate that so much. It'll help me out by helping me reach more people. You can find the links for Yoni Myllari, Green Tea Studios, and everything else mentioned in this podcast in the show notes. This episode, as well as all the rest, will be posted on my website, howtolife.com, as well. Also posted there are all of the mominars from my YouTube channel. Check them out and subscribe for short, easy tutorials on how to do basic life skills. Please send me your feedback, requests for mominars, or potential guest spots on this podcast to drlj@howtolife.com. drlj@howtolife.com. If you send me an email, I will get back to you. All right, that's a wrap. Everyone, have a great week. Make sure you have fun. Give yourself a break and be easy about everything. You got this.